So as a runner or another type of endurance athlete, you need both carbs and electrolytes, as well as obviously the other macronutrients and micronutrients. But basically today we are focusing on electrolytes and carbs and why you need them as runners and how you're going to get them through products such as Tailwind and Nuun. So this is Tailwind versus Nuun. They're two very, very different products, very popular among the running crowd or cyclists. And so I want to just talk to you guys a little bit about how these products are different and how I use them in my training. As far as electrolytes, these include things such as sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. So when you are sweating, you're essentially losing those out of your sweat. Mostly sodium and chloride, as well as the other ones. You're wanting to be able to replace those by getting electrolytes back into your system. Now, you don't need something like Nuun for sure. I mean, foods already have these electrolytes in them, like pretzels have salt all over them, right? So you're getting that sodium from the pretzels right there. We've gone years and years and years, obviously, without something like Nuun. It just makes it a little bit easier to make sure that your body's getting the electrolytes that it needs. So when you sweat, you're mostly losing water, but you're also losing these electrolytes as well. And a lot of times, if you're replenishing those electrolytes as you're drinking water, it's helping you absorb the water as well. So here I have Nuun, and today we're talking specifically about Nuun Sport. Okay, Nuun does have other products, but really we're comparing the two, Nuun Sport and then Tailwind, which I have here. So Nuun, this is the ingredient list that you're going to see on Nuun. So first of all, it's 15 calories. Okay, it has citric acid, dextrose, natural flavors, beet powder color, stevia leaf extract, avocado oil, and malic acid. You're getting the full gamut of the electrolytes that you need from taking Nuun. Okay, so we're gonna talk here in a little bit about when you would wanna take this, but essentially, this is very low calorie, low carb. It only has 2 grams of carbs in it, 1 gram of sugar, and then it has stevia as opposed to just having full sugar throughout. Okay, and then as far as the Tailwind, so I use both of these, this is where you're getting a big boost of carbohydrates. You're getting those sugars that you need as fuel, okay? This is why it's called endurance fuel. This has a mix of dextrose and sucrose. Basically, Tailwind has put together dextrose and sucrose together because more carbs can be absorbed when these are used in combination. Not only that, when they're used in combination, it also allows you to have less stomach issues. So as a runner, you're getting better performance and you're getting less stomach issues as well. So this is why this was created. So Jeff, the Tailwind Nutrition founder, he even says on the back, as he was training for the Leadville 100 or when he was running it, he was just getting super, super sick in his stomach, which is why this was created. And he has that 2-to-1 ratio of glucose to fructose. That's what they've kind of come to the decision of, that 2-to-1 ratio of glucose to fructose is the best for endurance performance. So the reason that I started using this in the first place, I actually started using a product called Sword, as did my husband. It's a very similar profile. It's just a lot harder to get. It's a great product also, but this one is off Amazon. You can find it in your local running store probably. So we ended up just switching to Tailwind just because it's so much easier to get. But the reason that we started using this in the first place is because we were having issues with our stomach. And I'm at the point now where my stomach is pretty well trained and I run a lot and I've been running very consistently for a lot of years, that from what I found, I can pretty much take gels or gummy bears, jelly beans. I talk about in like one of my vlogs, I was basically taking jelly beans left over from Easter, and none of that makes me have any sort of gut bomb. But because this is more something you're taking less at a time and then fueling throughout and mixing it with water, it's just easier on your stomach, or for a lot of people. And my husband had a much more successful marathon experience using this product as opposed to using gels. This is all I've used in the past for marathons, Sword and Tailwind. I am going to be using gels in my next marathon, humid gels, but they also have a 2-to-1 glucose to fructose ratio. And just in playing around with things, like I said, I feel like I can handle it, but we'll see. I'm definitely gonna have to be more careful. Real quick, if you guys are getting value out of this video and learning something, I would appreciate if you press the like below. It helps my channel, and maybe consider subscribing if you are into all things running and enjoying this channel. If you are running for less than an hour on like a fair weather day, you don't need either of these during your run. So yes, you might want to take some Tailwind before you go out for your run, just to get that energy that you need and those carbs to fuel your run, especially if you're doing some sort of speed work. This can be a great way to get those carbs without eating anything. And you also want to make sure you have water before your run anyway. And then that same run, when you get home, replenishing those electrolytes, just making sure that you get the hydration that you need afterwards, then taking the Nuun Sport after your run would be a good idea. In fact, I talk about in another video where what I'm doing kind of after my long run, and this is included in that. And it's not only to replenish those electrolytes that I've lost, but it's also just to make sure I'm getting the hydration I need, right? Because it tastes good. And so sometimes just having straight water isn't as appealing. And so this is a good way to have it taste good and make sure that you're getting that hydration that you need. But for runs, less than an hour, hour and a half on that fair weather days, not too hot, then you really don't need anything on your run except maybe just plain water. I don't personally, but depends on the person, like I said. Okay, once we're getting into those warm weather days, I talked about this in another video, how to survive those hot weather runs, then you absolutely need to be drinking water. You should be taking water with you even on those short runs. Maybe they're only 45 minutes long, but you want to be having water with you. And like I said, that sometimes having those electrolytes with that water, it helps with the absorption. I think the jury's still out and people have different views on that, but you're definitely taking water, even if it's just a small amount. So what I would do in this situation is mix the Nuun and then put it in here with the water to have on the hot weather run, because you're gonna be losing a lot of electrolytes. And if you're like me, I'm a heavy sweater, then you're even losing more electrolytes. So there's really no harm in having the Nuun along with your water, and it's just gonna help a little bit more. And then you can also be taking this Nuun after. So again, we're still talking about some of these shorter 45 minutes to an hour run, hour and a half. It's just going to be different on a warm weather day where you might want to be getting some more of these electrolytes, and then definitely taking some Nuun afterwards to replenish those electrolytes that you lost, especially if you didn't have any of this during your run. And like I said before, you can get it from food too. It doesn't have to be from Nuun. It's just, this is a simple way to get it, okay? And the way these work is, these are like these little discs, and then you just pop them in water. They will dissolve in cold water. They're a little bit better when it's warmer. I personally like to put them in warm water and then put ice in, or when it's cold outside in the winter, I will make this like in my Yeti, hot water, like I'm making tea, and pop this in there, and I love it like that as well. All right, so let's talk about those long runs. Okay, this is where we're getting into needing more of the Tailwind. Okay, and this is where you want to be mixing your Tailwind before you go. Maybe you have a little bit before you go. Maybe you don't. Maybe you eat something like a white bagel with peanut butter, half a banana, something like that. That's what I would do. Or I eat an RX bar. I don't take any of this before I leave for a run. My husband, on the other hand, when he does his long runs, this is what he likes to have before. He doesn't like to have a lot of food. So you'll find out what works best for you. Then you're gonna be mixing this in your water bottle and putting it in your vest, or maybe you have one with a backpack and a bladder. Okay, and this says that you're going to want to have 200 calories per hour of exercise. So with 200 calories, one scoop has 100 calories, so that would be 2 scoops, which means if you're going to be doing a 4-hour marathon, then you would end up having 8 scoops. Okay, so for a total of 800 calories. I find that I can perform well with a little bit less than this. I'm a small person. Someone bigger might end up needing more. So what I like to do is make it pretty heavily concentrated. So the other day I did a 16.5-mile run. I did 4 scoops in here with cold water, and then on the other side, because there's 2 of these, on the other side I just had plain water. I love to be able to have that taste of plain cold water up against the Tailwind. It has a pretty strong flavor. It's good, but sometimes you just want to have that, especially on a hot day, just water tastes really good. So for me personally, I like to have both, which is another reason why I love having a vest as opposed to just the bladder. So essentially, guys, you want to be thinking about Tailwind just like gels. They're a replacement for gels so that you don't have to take the gels. So if you're taking the Tailwind, you don't need both. You don't need gels. Okay, you could come to a combination. I've gone on runs, and I've talked about this in some of my vlogs, where I will mix less Tailwind and then have a gel also. You can absolutely do that. You just want to be paying attention to how many carbs you're taking, and are you getting those 200 calories per hour of exercise? Are you kind of balancing them at the right time? So really with Tailwind though, the nice thing about this is I will start sipping it in 2 to 3 miles, and I'm just sort of sipping all the way through. And so if you have, stomach issues, this is an excellent product to try. I've run marathons with vest or a hydration pack, and you know, they work really well. All right, so then after your long run, you could come home, replenish with electrolytes back in your system with using Nuun. So you don't need to have Nuun on your long run. Tailwind is to give you that nutrition, those carbs, that combination of sucrose and glucose, so that you don't bonk and you are able to get through your long run or your marathon feeling really, really good. You need to have that nutrition. This isn't offering nutrition, just replenishing electrolytes so you can have it when you come home. All right, I hope you guys learned the difference of Nuun and Tailwind. If you guys have any questions, drop them below. I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you for joining me. I'll catch you guys in the next video.